Hello and welcome to the Lens at 177, and the Minister for Home Affairs and Immigration, P.O. Tikoduadua, is with me today. And specifically today, sir, we are going to talk about the newly launched Counter Narcotics Strategy 2023-2028. It was done recently by DPM Prasad. Has this booklet or has this policy come too late for the country?
I believe it would have been better if we had it introduced 5 years ago. The reason I say that is at that time, not that you're posing that question to me, I had posed the same question in Parliament. And I would say that we have a much more challenging environment now than when I had suggested, the combined action of Parliament back then. But no, it's never too late. It's never too late to start anything. I think this government at least has put something together. Never has been put this way before. So it's never too late to start working at it.
The head of the Catholic Church, Archbishop Chong, was here, and he said that he wanted the government to do a social analysis of the root causes of why the drug pandemic has spread. He said he had given this submission to the ministry, to the government, but it wasn't taken on board. Was he correct to say that?
No, well, the fact that he had made the submission, I agree. I think it's not true to say that it is not being taken on board. Because part of this strategy includes him and includes faith-based organization. Yeah. Now, you were there that when we launched, with your friends up on the road, at Waimanu Road, the discussion we had, the dialogue we had at FNU. Yeah. And they were there. I had said in my opening address, and exactly this is one of the passions of particularly the Archbishop of Suva, and that is to get to the root of the problem. Drug is a social problem, I agree. Okay. Now, there is also the enforcement part, and that's the bit that I'm responsible for. Fortunately or unfortunately, my ministry, the Ministry of Home Affairs, is responsible for the national effort. That's why I'd asked Professor Biman Prasad, DPM, when he was acting minister, to launch this book. But whether the national effort against drug should really sit with my ministry, this is something we can look at down the line. But it is where it is, and we can make it work. This is a national effort, which means it includes the whole of nation, not whole of government, whole of nation. It is a role for the church. So I would like to thank His Grace, the Archbishop of Suva, for his sentiments, but I would like to assure him his contributions are available to us. We value that. And yes, if we do not get to the root causes of why our kids are taking drugs and why the youth on the street are taking drugs, then it will be very hard to solve this problem. Now, last week I was in Rewa Secondary School, Pasar Parade. Before I addressed the parade, I spoke to the parents in Itoke. And I went back to the responsibility, the parental responsibility of raising children. Yeah. So I said in my speech in the Itoke, government does not give birth to children. Fathers and mothers do. Mothers do. Society owns them first before the church or the government gets to own them. It has to be looked at that way. And therefore, if parents cannot own this responsibility to prevent, to make sure that the children are not exposed to the effects of drugs, then unfortunately government will only be, putting out fires. We need to stop the fire, not put it out when it started. So yes, I would like to say that that we need all of our people in this thing to work.
Now that you are putting up a fight with this document, do you have data on how many people in Fiji are doing drugs at this point in time?
I can't give you the whole, I don't have the whole number of people. That would be impossible to know.
There is no data available anywhere?
No, there is data available for those who have come to seek help. There is data within social organizations that go out there to reach out. So government is put, for instance, through the Department of Ministry of Social Welfare and Youth and Sport, we're targeting specifically street kids, and we know how many of them do drugs. We know that the Ministry of Housing have got their own thing going on. They're all part of this. I'll be happy to come down and talk over the numbers exactly, but the numbers are concerning. You know, even if it's one, it's concerning because we want to eradicate it. But I think it's important that we understand the extent and the nature, the depth of the problem. Number is only one part of it. And, but it helps us to target the community that we need to reach out to. But unfortunately, the numbers are too many, or too, what do you call, any number is too big for Fiji. Any number is too big. And right now, the numbers of people that we assume are using drugs or are benefiting from the marketing of drugs is actually a number that needs to be curtailed and, you know, brought down.
Has the Fiji Police Force, or as Minister responsible, have you sought clarification on which areas of Fiji are now red zones and have to be targeted?
Yeah, there are a few.
Are you able to name them, Minister?
Yeah, well, the West is the reddest of our zones, the Western Division. Okay, and in particular Nandi. Yeah. And that's where that big haste came through. Okay. And in terms of consumption and in terms of its use, and I think where it is prevalent based on the population in the Central Division is where it is most concerning, because you've got the greatest number of people between the Suvarnabhumi corridor. In terms of specific community, it's in the, you know, in the informal settlements where it is bad. But that does not preclude even, you know, places like Tamabua, you name where the top end and the middle income people live, because it is everywhere. And I say why it is everywhere, because, you know, we are arresting people in Wanolewu in the islands with white, not green. So, but the reds, you know, and then in different places that were traditionally red with green, for instance, Kandabu, and then around Natewa, these areas, this is what everybody knows. But we are concerned generally about the area that where we are most concerned in targeting much of our work is around the major business centers, because this is where the enablers are. This is where we need. The rest of the place where the money is not, that is where the people who consume it the most.
Do you know if the Fiji Police Force has now gone at ground level and sent its officers undercover to infiltrate drug networks and apprehend the bad guys? Do you think that is happening in Fiji?
It is happening. It's always been happening. It's always been happening. You know, you have the narcotics, the Narcotics Bureau of the police. Those that we have now recruited as part of the Counter-Narcotics Bureau. I'm meeting them today, so briefing them about my intentions for this particular unit. But they've been doing this part of their work for a very long time, even through the Transnational Crime, TCU unit that works with other border enforcement agencies, you know, including the military, the airports, customs, and immigration. But police specifically have been doing this work. And police is not only responsible for crimes based on narcotics. They've got other things too. Because this thing is so prominent now, as in other jurisdictions, we have decided to have a dedicated department within government, independent from the police, to look at it. Okay. But police will also have their work cut out as part of the police reset. Those are some of the specialized work of the police to do. So these two will be working together. But in terms of the lead agency, in terms of how drugs is going to be dealt with, it's going to be with the Counter-Narcotics Bureau. Yeah.
The Counter-Narcotics Bureau, the Counter-Narcotics Strategy has 4 subcommittees.
Yeah.
Ministries are involved, departments are involved. Will you whip them into action if you don't get results?
Well, we have funds dedicated for it. We all understand the risks that Fiji poses at the moment, which is primarily, as I said earlier, a whole of nations. So this is all these committees have civilian components to them, parts of society, different areas of society, groups of society that work with these people in government, in these 4 committees. So, but government can only touch its own people. So the agency that is responsible for that is the Counter-Narcotic Agency. And it has to make sure also that when it puts out this strategy and with the different government departments responsible for different things, we will want them to include that in their corporate plan, in resourcing, in their action plan. That we will be looking at. And there is a committee, as you look, you understand from the establishment of there is a permanent secretary committee that includes, so they call it the coordinating steering committee. So it's chaired by the PS for Home Affairs, and they look after policy, strategy, and it looks, this includes all of the permanent secretaries actually. So if we have to do some whipping, that's where we will be whipping. Whipping as in not WEEP, but bringing out the whip, cracking the whip. Yeah.
And one can always argue a booklet like this can always end up on the dust where top of the...
Well, could end up in the bin too.
Yes.
If nobody gives it, what it is, if nobody acts on it. Yeah. We've dedicated resources, we have the committee going, but I must say, people demand instant solution. Okay, and I want to see here there is no instant solution here, because the reason why it cannot have an instant solution is because this is an old problem. This is an existing problem. Yeah, and so therefore, with the use of this strategy with the government, we have 4 years. I have 2 more years left. In the second year, we put this strategy together. We want to put something in place that is sustainable and durable. Something that successor government, the minister who replaces me, can pick it up and carry it forward. And that will be the plan for government on how it deals with this. So the same committees will be there, and strategies will be put, action plans will be put, it will be measured, and hopefully within this next 12 months, Anisha, I want to tell you, these are my two main areas of concern. When I leave my desk in 12 months, and I'm okay with that, that's fine, and because change will happen. Either I go to another ministry if I get re-elected, or I'll go back to the village. But this is something for me that's durable. You can depend on it. It is sustainable. And that it has long-term outcomes that Fiji can plan on. And it's definitely worth supporting. So I would urge whoever is out there, particularly if you're concerned about counter-narcotics and you're concerned about the professionalism of the police force, that if you're a member of the public, particularly the media, that you need to continually question those who are coming up later after me on how far they have taken the ideas behind this, the strategies and the policy. That's what I'm saying.
Do you then want to be remembered as P.O. Tikoduadua, the person from Talevu who controlled the drug pandemic within his term in office?
I would like to be remembered for the fact that I put something in place that is that my successor will be able to work at and derive a solution to continue to improve on. That would be the legacy, because practically that is something that is achievable. To eradicate drugs, no, that is not impossible. That is impossible, but it is manageable. It's been here before I came through. It'll be here long after I'm gone. But government needs to have a system that prevents people from exploiting people, and making sure that government is able to be in a strong position to lead it, because government is leading it, leading the whole nation to it. And hopefully in the process, the main outcome that we want to achieve as Fijians is that to be able to educate and stop our people from consuming drugs. That's the only thing we can do. That's the outcome we want. Anish, that's the outcome we want. Taroba, because that's the only thing that we have. We cannot stop its production in South America or in North America or in Asia. We cannot see all the boats coming through. Some things will come through. Even the Americans have a hard time controlling the cargo that come off. And this is country with greatest number of technology. We have a porous ocean that surrounds our island. The only thing that we have are the people that we call Fijians. That's other people that we would like to educate from the family upwards to society, to tell them, say no to drugs, do not consume drugs. That's the solution. And then hopefully good things like those that are resetting the economy create the opportunity that provide the people with work, so that, because a lot of this is created out of idleness. So if you're doing something, then you won't be doing drugs. If you're earning money in a good way, you do not need to sell drugs to earn money.
Minister, we'll take a short break and continue the discussion on the other side.
We were around when the deed was first signed. We were around when the first car engine roared. We were around when the very first was crowned. Through devastations, jubilant celebrations, and the milestones. We will continue to be around to bring you all the stories first.
Welcome back, Minister Tikoduadua. You spoke about meeting your officers of the new Narcotics Bureau today. Can I challenge you on one thing? Are you 100% clear? Are you 100% sure that these are the officers that will do the work for you?
There is, dealing with people, nothing is ever definite. Okay, it's up to the government, it's up to me to set a standard, draw the guidelines, make them understand what their work entails. I demand the highest level of professionalism, because corruption will be the biggest decay of this particular committee. If my counter-narcotic officers become corrupt, then this thing won't work. So this is one thing I'm going to tell them today. They cannot afford to be corrupt. So the code of conduct for this particular institution will be way up there. Check systems in place to make sure that officers who are in this particular work maintain the highest level of professionalism. That will be inbuilt into the system because of two words: confidence and trust. And that's where, I think that's where we kind of fell short. That's why the whole reset thing needed to happen. That's why we had to start a completely develop a completely new authority to look after drugs. It used to be a police work only. So, whilst we are going to include, part of narcotics, specialized police capability within police work, we now have a dedicated department that will look after it. But it is only as good as its people. So, if you're asking me in terms of what you're challenging me to, I would start off with those lines today. This organization cannot be corrupt. It should be incorruptible. The professional standard is up there and it will be enforced. And any officer who wants to work here needs to be there, up there with the best. And internal systems will have to ensure that whilst we are controlling drugs, we need to be mindful of ourselves too. That is the most important thing for me. Yeah. Their training, I have no qualms about it because I know they've been doing this work for a very long time. But they need to do it according to what the law allows them to do.
Are they being paid higher salary than what they were on in order to not to be corrupted?
The remuneration of our narcotic officers has to be reviewed. Has to be reviewed. They are working at the establishment in terms of the structure. We have started to get people across under their existing conditions. Okay. But if they are professional enough and answer only to the law, then pay should not be an issue. It is an area of interest, it helps. But it does not always stop it. But we've got to make sure that whoever comes to work in the area of the Narcotics Bureau is to be beyond reproach. And beyond reproach means you have to pay them well. And that's why also, when we put in place the measures to keep them honest, then they will understand why. Yeah. So this is not your usual job. This is not the usual job. This is, it's been created specifically to answer to a need now. Manage it so that going forward, it can be mitigated quickly.
If an officer is found to be corrupt, has received a bribe, he is under your ministry, will you take the blame for it?
I think ultimately, any leader is responsible for it. There's a certain extent to which the code of conduct is going to make people responsible. I will have certain accountabilities as minister. The officers themselves, including the director of this particular institution, of course are going to be more accountable. Yeah. But I will never be the minister per se and the government of the day, at least by perception. At least by perception, cannot be entirely without blame. I cannot be entirely without blame. This is my creation. If it fails, that's my legacy. So I've got to make sure it works. But if one of my officers becomes corrupt at the end of the day, and it is because of his own making, then he needs to be held to account. But if it's because of the system and it's because of the neglect that I have not supervised it, then the minister like me should be held accountable for it. Should be. Yeah.
Your officers of the Narcotics Bureau, under which law will they govern themselves? Obviously, they are not part of police. They are coming under Home Affairs. So what legal authority will they have to go and conduct a raid, let's say, at a person's house?
Yeah. At the moment, we are working with police. They will be working with police to do their work until we really establish this properly. The laws are being put together now quickly. Yeah. We're not reinventing the wheel. There are jurisdictions that we are learning from and how to make it work. Yeah. We just need to make sure it's not so much about the law that allows them to do the work they do now, because they work with the police. It's, they are covered in the work that they do, because it's still what the police do. However, because this is an entirely new department of government, the laws have to be written to make sure that they get their work. We have to allow them to be able to do their work. Unfortunately, some of their work is sensitive. There are things that we can openly talk about at this point, because their work entails a lot of information gathering only. We use the powers that are available to the police now to do it. And then when the time comes, when I work, Solicitor General and my ministry are working on it with the experts to be able to have a set of laws dedicated to allow them to do their work effectively and for them to be accountable too.
Given that police officers are known or were known to be part of drug networks in contact with people peddling drugs, was the creation of this Narcotics Bureau related to that, to remove that stigma that we don't want officers like that?
The work against narcotics, counter-narcotics work remains police work. That falls within the ambit of their work. And I said earlier, you asked me, has this come about a bit too late? I said, well, okay, maybe 5 years. Okay. A lot has happened. Those things you said about police, police have been, taken to account about these things. Some have been arrested, some have been taken to court. Well, but Anish, the majority of the police is good. The majority of it. Unfortunately, the small rotten apples are the ones that create the impression about any organization, including the police. But that is not the reason why we have started this. The reason we did this is because narcotics is a transnational crime. It's a transnational issue. It's a global issue. It's really affected Fiji badly because nothing was done about it. It's not about the police. It just means that government has identified the need to have a dedicated authority that looks at narcotics only as part of its work. So whatever happened to the police reset is going to look after that now. But in terms of the magnitude of the work relating to drugs that government leads, this is now the document that will guide us to do it. But it is only because such is the nature of the threat that we have, we need to have a dedicated level of capability to do it. So, and I've told this to the police too, because there's a lot of, there are some who say, oh, okay, that is duplicating police work. I said, no, it's not duplicating. It just means we recognize that this is a pertinent threat and needs to be targeted in terms of the solutions that we take on it. That's the reason why it is here.
Then can a scenario like this arise? Fiji Police Force officers, your officers from the Narcotics Bureau arrive at the same time, at the time of a raid. Who takes the lead there?
The reason why we have the Narcotics Bureau and the police, and in terms of gathering, there is the police are also part of the Narcotics Bureau. That is where we share information at the end of the day. Okay. Yes, there are two different authorities, and then certain situations will warrant that the police, because of the information they receive, will go and do it. But we will also have to make sure that if we share the same information, that the work that we do not conflict with each other. We're supposed to be there to complement each other, not work against each other. Our standard operating procedure, we look after that. So that is something that we will be looking at going forward. Yeah.
Finally, for this segment, is 2 million enough to kick off things, or do you need more?
It's a start. It's a good start. It's not enough. It's not enough. This is only just to kick it off. So the ball is hanging in the air. The ball's in the air, everyone is still running around without the ball. And then when someone takes the ball and starts running, then, more money is nice. It's not always the solution. And I'm talking about, we talked about this, I told you earlier, the solution is not in the Bureau. The solution is in the community to stop people from consuming drugs. You take care of that, the Bureau becomes irrelevant. But that's like a real big wish. The reality on the ground, it's the elephant in the room.
And what's the measure that you will use to see the effectiveness of the Narcotics Bureau officers, their success? How will you measure that?
Well, the law is central to that, and the professionalism of the force of the people. The Anti-Narcotics Bureau police or officers have to be professional. We need to educate them. There has to be a certain standard. They're not police. Obviously, they'll be dealing with dangerous people. We've got to make sure that they're ready. We've got to make sure that they are equipped, well, capable. Okay. So whether it's in the area of information gathering or whether it's raiding, whether it's tactical, whether it involves, arming them, that's the future. We'll have to determine that. Okay. But the enabler for that here, and that will be the most contentious one, that is the law. The law that allows them to do the work that they will do. That law, we're looking at it now. And I said earlier, this is a long-term thing. This is not an instant noodle solution. You write the laws well. I only have 2 years to go. This person who's going to come and take over my job, who's going to be mindful of, looking after this place, needs to have a set of laws that he can look at, work with, and amend on the way according to the nature of the threat. But that is where it will be dependent. Of course, it has to be resourced properly. Yeah. We're trying to find, an interim office for them. We have identified a particular place. It's important that they have to work out of an area. But we would like, given we will be establishing it as part of a government, it's going to be a government department. At the moment within the Ministry of Home Affairs. There will have to be in some ways a dedicated authority. It's a service, authority at the same time. They have to be well equipped and well capable.
Minister will take a short break and continue the discussion on the other side.
We were around when the deed was first signed. We were around when the first car engine roared. We were around when the very first was crowned. Through devastations, jubilant celebrations, and the milestones. We will continue to be around to bring you all the stories first.
Welcome back. Minister, before we get to the police reset, which is another one of your babies, let me ask you this question. Since the 4.5-ton meth bust in Nadi, we have several other major drug busts that happened. Why are drug peddlers not realizing that Fiji is alert and let's not do this?
Yeah, well, the bishop said why. He asked me why, something that we need to get down to the bottom to. And that's a question we need to ask ourselves, why that peddlers are doing it. And that question, some part of its answer we have. Maybe not all. Need to understand the social side of it. I've been critiqued, government has been criticized, including the police, that all we're doing is raiding. That's part of our work, part of my work. If they are bad people, we go and catch them, make sure they stop from doing bad. And those include the peddlers. Peddlers are, peddlers are like work ants. They're not the boss, they're not the final benefit, but they're the workers. They're in between, they're quite evil, and it's a bit of a challenge trying to get rid of them because they become sophisticated. But they are motivated by different things. Different answers said, why have to people peddle? Because they have to, pay for the necessities of life and all of that. And sometimes people tend to point the finger very quickly. I think it's important to get down to the reason why. But if someone is a repeated peddler and doesn't want to reform or rehabilitate, then this person deserves to be, to receive what is coming to him and what the law allows. Because that's just naturally bad people. If you do something, you get told you don't do it, then, put you through a different path. But part of the narcotic strategy also looks at these people. Yeah. And they have to be dealt with if they continue to do this. We want to believe people are good, but at least there are bad people out there. Anyone who peddles drugs without cause, and there's really no good cause why anyone should be peddling drugs, deserves to be taken to task. And this is part of the work that we do too, and we want to make sure that we stop them. We do not give them any room to maneuver. Mm-hmm.
These bad people are also smart people. Do you recognize that? They
well, I think they're cunning. I think they're very cunning. Not so about smart. Yes, they will try and outwit you. They'll try and outthink you. But I think we have smarter people, and I think the Fijian people are smarter. They're more mature and are more responsible. These peddlers are not responsible, and that's one thing that is the distinction between peddlers and good people and the people of our community, is that a lot of people are responsible, and you should not grant any room for people. So I'm saying, out there in our communities, there's too much talk, too many talk about people saying, oh, that guy is peddling, that house is taking, that house is pushing, too much talk. What they're going to do is, now there's a place for them to come and take this. Come, if they are really concerned about the safety of their children and their community, come forward, come forward. In our laws, we will be there to protect people, who give information to government, to allow government to look after people. Yes, at the moment people are scared, we understand, because they fear for these people. But we hope to provide the environment where people will be protected, so that peddlers do not get the free rein that they, that they get to enjoy in the community. And people should also, but should come forward. But people are coming forward, Anish. You're hearing of all the raids that we're doing. Information is coming from the people. Different quantum of drugs that we are confiscating, people that we are arresting. That came from the people, yes, and we would like them to continue to do that.
You spoke about the peddlers, but do you know of any major big fish that your officers have identified and they are on the radar and very soon they will fall?
Well, the big ones that we've got are the ones that were arrested from Nandi. Those are the suspected. They are alleged to have been. Okay.
There is no other in the community?
Well, there are others. There are others. Clouds have to gather before rain have to fall. So hopefully no strong wind blows in between, and then they run away. We've done some unsuccessful raids. We got good information, but unfortunately they get tipped off before we get in. And I mean, when I say we, I mean police. Okay. We have people on our radar, and I want to make them want them to know that we've got them on our radar also. But the fortunate thing, I'm not saying the unfortunate. The fortunate thing is we have the law. We have to follow the law. We're not some second tier dictatorship. We have the rule of law, a rule-based order. We follow that. And even when it comes to people like this, you have to follow the law. But we want to make them know also, we've got them. We've got them on our radar. And then, we will get them.
When will you realize that you are losing this fight?
No, we're not losing the fight, Anish. Whoever came up with that, I think one Honorable Rua said that, someone else said losing the fight. As long as we are breathing, this fight is not over. I am putting this together. I've admitted you're never going to completely get rid of it, but you can manage it. And it has to start from home. So, parents, do your job. Church, do your job. Do your job. Government is doing its job. We can do it, independently of ourselves. We have a forum that allows us to work together. There's a what's the name of this group? The Drug-Free World.
Drug-free world. Yeah.
Young lady. There are not many of them, people who are volunteers. They make such a great impact on society. We've used them, we made them work. Many people who are being critical. These are people who are critical are people who don't do nothing about it. So we need more of those to come, more people like them, to be able to allow us to deal with this. This war is not lost. Some politicians use that line, and but I think it's a line that's really lost its meaning. Yeah. Because I think at the end of the day, if someone uses that, a politician that uses that line, that means they don't believe, they do not have confidence in their own people. I am confident we as the Fijian people, we've got this covered. We've got this covered. We just need to make sure the gaps within our society that allow this thing to thrive are the gaps that we cover. So I'm just urging everybody, including the church, Navanua, CSO, anyone that is dealing with humans, Fijians, let's come along and work at this thing together.
Given that you said you believe in your own people, let me ask you this then. As part of the police reset, will you consider or will you be happy that an expatriate police commissioner handles this pandemic or a local police commissioner handles it?
No, police commissioner, local one. He's only got part of the work. The Narcotics Bureau looks after the rest also. And it's kind of the lead agency to deal with it. Part of the work that the new commissioner gets to deal with is police capability dealing with narcotics. But I'm confident we have good people in Fiji. We only need good guidance. We need help. Everybody needs help, Anish. Everybody, including me. I need help. I can't do this thing alone. So will the next commissioner be. So I've made it public. There will be a go-to person, a sounding board dedicated to the commissioner to help him or her do, perform the roles of the police commissioner only for a short time. Only for a short time. Because this police reset provides the policy guidance for the current commissioner and whoever's coming afterwards on how the police force is going to be going forward. And part of that, the commissioner is going to do. And I'm confident the new police commissioner is going to look after it too.
So you say there will be a local police commissioner? Fijian?
Yeah.
Yes, 100%.
I'm not the appointing authority.
But you have a say as per the Constitution?
Under the Constitution, yes. And I think I've said it so many times. My preference is out there. I do not make the appointment, but by God, if someone asks me and I said it's going to be a Fijian.
Minister, the police reset will be the new guidelines for the new Commissioner of Police. But what will happen to the Assistant Commissioner of Police under him or her? If they remain there, it could be the same thing happening in the Fiji Police Force. Nothing will move forward.
Okay, that's kind of a fair assumption. The reset sets the standard for the new Commissioner of Police. When that person is appointed, he would have, or she would have been appointed with the proper authority to be, first look at his or her own people, particularly the executive management. It will be up to that person, the new Commissioner of Police, to make the determination about how his or her team is going to be comprised. That's what that needs to happen. People have aired their concerns. The question seems to suggest that there is a problem. Okay. What I'm saying is that is the solution. We believe people are good, but if someone is not good, one area that I would really like to make sure to up the ante on is professional standards in the police. I think they call it the Internal Affairs Division. It's the place within the Fiji Police Force that keeps them honest, that has the rule book of the code of conduct, behavior, and all that. So we would like everyone to be that. But if anyone, Gilio is, being convicted because of his role as commissioner, of what he did at the time, gone to court. Everyone, we all report to the law. Now the commissioners needs to make sure that his command team, his leadership team are the first people observing the law. Otherwise then, as you rightfully said, there's still going to be a confidence issue. I expect him to look after that. So at the end of the day, when he comes back to government and says, you're giving him my strategic guidance and direction, this is how I've looked at it. In terms of my leadership, this is what I'm going to do. I said, good on you.
Final question. Overseas jurisdictions, police officers have unions. Why can't Fijian police officers have a union?
That is not entirely something that is new. Okay. Part of our legacy, part of the legacy of our particularly security forces, the military, the police, and also, if you want, also call the correction officers security people. Our laws do not allow them to have unions, but this also needs to be considered in light of the provisions of human rights in the Constitution. It has been suggested, and I'm sure the police commissioner has got his work cut out for him in that light. So he's going to have to look at that.
As minister, will you support a police union?
The rights of the police is important also, but at the same time, I've got to make sure that that the government has the flexibility to be able to have people that are dedicated to this work. But there are ways in which you look after people's rights, particularly workers, and there are there. The ER is there, and all our labor laws that guide them. Police, under the Constitution, have got their own act, and they are governed by that and the role that they play. They're an essential service. We need to get them to work at a time when we need them. I'm sure we could come around to work something that we look after them too and their workers' rights.
Minister P. Tikoduadua, thank you very much for speaking with us, and all the best with your future plans.
Thank you, Anish.